Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you so much for joining us on this, well, at least in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is a beautiful spring day. I hope you've got some good weather wherever you are. Welcome to another Joy of SharePoint and PAIT Group webinar. Today, we're taking a question we've been hearing from clients and members of the community. Why are people talking about Yammer when we've already got Teams and we're invested in Teams? And I feel a little bad about that because Yammer came well before Teams did, but especially once the pandemic hit and we all started working and collaborating from home, Teams became a household name. But Yammer still very much has a role to play. I'm serious, it does. And we're going to talk about that today. I have with me the PAIT Group Yammer extraordinaire, Kat, with me to discuss the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how come we're talking about Yammer. If we have never met before, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Joy Apple, also known as Joy of SharePoint. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and at PAIT Group, I'm a modern workplace strategist, which basically means I help our clients figure out how to go from where they are today, whether that's Google Drive, older versions of SharePoint, or the file share, and get over into an intelligent intranet using Microsoft 365. And I've been working with Microsoft products and technologies for over 12, the clock's about to tick to 13 years. I'm so glad you are here with me and with Kat. Kat, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for allowing me to bump in on this webinar. And I am very new to PAIT. I am the Modern Workplace Consultant. Just hit my 1 month mark, I believe, at PAIT. And what my title means is that I want to be like Joy. So I'm hoping to eventually be a workplace strategist like Joy is and learn lots from her and from Richard. I have a lot of experience with SharePoint and modern SharePoint, Teams, all the good Microsoft products and technologies. Before I came to PAIT, I had been doing an intranet manager position for 16 years at an association in Maryland. And so I'm bringing those skills as a kind of internal person over to the consulting side now. And I have experience doing lots of training for employees, and I did some speaking gigs back in conferences a long time ago, but I'm really excited to be here at PAIT, and I have a lot of experience with Yammer, which is why I am here today.
It's perfect, and you're being modest. This girl actually spoke at Ignite.
Oh, well, no, last year I was a tech talk. I was a customer tech talk.
I'm just saying, girl got chopped. All right, well, let's jump into it. But first, we need to know a little bit of information from you. We mustached you a question. I'm so sorry, I could not resist the mustached kitty cat. If you've got your phone on you, just go ahead and crack that open and scan the QR code. I think we've got a link. Did you already do it, Stacy? I think you did. Yep. We've got a link inside of the chat as well over on the Q&A. Just a few questions to find out where you are in the world of Yammer today. Are you yammering at work? Are you yammering at each other? So what's so funny is I don't know if it's just a Southern word or not, but the word yammer, my grandma would always be like, where are you kids yammering back there? Keep it down. It just cracks me up. I love it.
It never had a positive connotation either.
No. But here we are. Here we are. So are you using Teams in your organization? We're curious. We want to know, are you using Yammer in your organization? And if you are, especially if you are partially or fully deployed, please feel free to jump into chat and tell us more about what's going on. I'm sure we'll be referring to that as we go through the process. And Kat, since you created this poll, you're probably seeing if we're getting any responses back.
Yeah, we have about 3 responses right now. Let me drag this up so you can take a look.
Love it.
So we have folks who are either fully deployed with Teams or partially deployed with Teams. And
Mhm.
then we have some partially deployed, some fully deployed with Yammer. Oh, we have someone who's not considering Yammer. So maybe we'll
We're here
change your
for you.
mind.
We're here for you today.
Let's see.
Fantastic. 5 responses. Okay. Okay. And I see we've got some folks considering Yammer as well. That's exciting. As we go through this content, and Stacy just said it's like you're reading my mind, lady. Any questions, please, please, please put them in chat. Stacy will read them out to us as we go. If you've never attended a Joy of SharePoint PAIT Group webinar, we're here to talk with you. And we're here to have this conversation. We're actually very much looking forward to webinars coming so we can talk to you as we go through this kind of content. But please be a part of the conversation. We want this to be beneficial for you. Okay, we're about to flip to a slide that if you've attended any Microsoft events, you've seen it. You've seen it for years. And I started getting really tired of seeing the slide until I had a customer actually last week. He printed it out from one of the slide decks where I used it. He was like, I refer to this all the time. This is great. Okay, fine, we'll keep it. Inner loop, outer loop. If you haven't been hearing those phrases, you will as you start really thinking about the roles Microsoft Teams and Yammer play inside of your organization. And this does really do a good job of displaying it graphically.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite slides from Microsoft.
It's great. It's concise. So your inner loop, those are those people that you work with day in, day out the most. You send emails to them internally, or they could be vendors or clients you collaborate with frequently, but they're part of your inner circle for work. And I think I heard recently, it might have been we had Rishi on the webinar, that most people have between 8 and 12. That's probably your number of those close collaborators. Teams is where currently most of us are doing that collaborative effort. We're chatting, we're sharing files, we're collaborating on content together. Then on the other side of the world, right, this little graphical view, we've got our outer loop. And those are people you do connect with, but not frequently. They're not one of your go-to collaborators or coworkers or colleagues that you're working on stuff with all the time. And SharePoint sits in the middle of that because that's where we keep our stuff, whether we're grabbing an attachment to send out to a client or collaborating on a team site with the person that's used to be in the cube right next to us at work, or that we chat with the most on Teams, right? All that stuff's in SharePoint. Outlook, this is perfect, right? It spans that because sometimes we need to email internally, sometimes we need to email to someone that we may never speak to again. So where's Teams? Where does Yammer? Where do all these things fit together? And it kind of got a little confusing. Kat called me out on this. Thank you, Kat, because I hadn't updated my slide. Used to, Teams supported an org-wide channel of up to 5,000 people, right? If you're a small company, that's more than big enough to have everyone in the same team. Well, now that's bumped up to 10,000 users in one team. That's a lot. Doesn't that kind of feel like Yammer? Doesn't it kind of feel like it's stepping on Yammer's toes just a little bit, Teams out there with the thug life? Right? But there's a place for everybody. I feel like if I had background music, we would now cue up We Are Family. Because these tools definitely work together.
Well, play that tune in your head.
Yes, dance if you need to. Stacy you can't see her, but I just saw her do a little dance. Kat, when you're working in your role as that intranet manager for that organization, I'm sure you had to have this conversation all the time.
Yeah, we used both. And so we had to determine, because we actually launched Yammer first, and then Teams came out, and we had a lot of people saying, well, what is this? There's a lot of overlapping features, and when am I supposed to use what? So, as things have evolved, I mean, Teams has really been evolving over the past couple of years, and really last year in particular, but so has Yammer. And I think as long as you understand the strengths of each, you as an organization can make that decision, when should I use what? Or even you might say, do I need just one? And that might be what you need for your organization, but we're hoping to help you make those decisions by sharing this kind of information. So I personally think, Yammer has a lot of strengths. So I always look at it as, keep going back to that outer loop. It is for everyone. It spans the organization, no matter how big or how small. It is for everyone in the organization. And it does have that social element. It was often referred to as Facebook for the organization, although I think Facebook came out with their own option for that. But yeah, but Yammer really, is meant to be a little bit more social, a little more fun. And just a way to reach out to other people. It is accessible to everyone in the organization, unless you set something up specifically to be private, although now I really don't know why people would bother doing that, since we do have Teams. One of the key things that I emphasize is the importance of Yammer is, if you've got that traditional intranet portal, if you have SharePoint for your intranet, Yammer has web parts, so you can stick Yammer right on your homepage. You can't do that with Teams. So it's great for bringing that visibility to the intranet portal and bringing that social and fun element to that homepage. There are also some really cool features, like adding questions specifically as a question type, and then even marking the best answer. So if you want to start building some kind of knowledge base and allowing everyone to engage and respond, and then picking, what's the best answer, or maybe you do it for an idea and you pick what's the best idea, that feature is built right into Yammer, so it's great for that. And then I just love the ability to share celebration type stuff, so sharing kudos, sharing praise across the organization. Make it as visible, make it as well known as possible. Shout from the rooftops how great someone is or what an amazing job they did. Now, you could do a lot of similar things over on the Teams side. I mean, Teams is great for even having social fun, but at that group level, you're collaborating and you're communicating with work groups in Teams. So that's really the great place to work with that smaller group, that 8 to 12 people that you are just kind of more intimate with, that you have kind of day in and day out interactions with. Your social fun with them may look a little bit different than it does with the org as a whole. You can chat with individuals and groups very easily in Teams. Plus, you have all these cool features like calls and meetings and screen sharing. You can bring in all kinds of elements from outside into your Teams tabs, other apps, and then you can celebrate and share across those more intimate work groups. So the praise that you're giving, maybe you just want to do it at the team level and you want to give a shout out to someone on the team. You can do that using the praise feature inside of Teams. So there are definitely some overlapping features, but I think they make sense for different reasons, and they look and act a little different. So I think as long as you understand the strengths of each application, you can determine when it's best to use what. Do you want to add anything to that, Joy?
Well, I just had a moment of panic in my heart, just kind of imagining scenarios when you were talking about that. Yes, there are Yammer web parts for intranet pages, because we want to highlight those communities that are created in Yammer and bring people in, draw them in. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, what would happen if a user could put their team chat in a web part on just any SharePoint page? That could be awkward for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's specific project or department level work, right? So if the wrong HR conversation got out into the wild, that could be bad, or just random opinion or venting.
Sure.
Which we do with our groups, let's be honest, because part of what we do as a team for each other is support. Especially in the last year, we've all needed a lot of extra support. So I was just imagining that in my mind of what the fallout could be. Having an active imagination isn't always a good thing.
Hopefully security trimming would at least be in place.
Oh,
Hopefully.
but you know, modern's been a little slow for that on web part.
Yeah, true.
But your last sentence, though, about when to use what, it kind of feels like that might almost be tipping its hat to governance. Oh my gosh, you thought you were coming to a webinar just about Yammer and fun stuff, and I said the governance word. I'm so sorry. But governance, really at the core, most foundational level, is when do we use what? How do we use it? Who uses it and how? When do we use Teams? When do we use something like Yammer? When do we use what? I actually have a whole session that I do called TMO, Too Many Options in Microsoft 365. And I've been doing it for like, Stacy, what, 3 years maybe? I don't think I've ever had that session turned down when I've submitted it for something, because if you look at Microsoft 365, you just go look at all the apps that are available. It's huge. There's so much, and so many feel like they overlap. When do we use what? What option is best? Teams is very much for teamwork, because teamwork makes the dream work. And that's what we do in Teams, right? We collaborate on documentation, business processes, policies, procedures. Maybe you get contracts put together to send out to vendors, or you work on proposals, any number of things. But you're talking about the life cycle of work assets. And typically, not always, but typically they're task driven, whether or not we're formally tracking those tasks in Planner or To Do or, bless us, Microsoft Project, right? There's accountability associated with most of what we do inside of Teams. And there's a lot of weight associated with notifications inside of Teams, because Kat and I were joking about this the other day. We're like Pavlov's dog now. You hear that Teams notification and you're looking at your computer, you're looking for your computer, or you're grabbing your phone out of your pocket, right? Constantly. I was at a pub with my husband a few weeks back, and a Teams commercial was on the TV and they had the volume on. And I heard that sound. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's calling me. What's happening? It's 8 o'clock at night. Oh, it's just a commercial. Go Microsoft. I'm so well conditioned. Right? But that's Teams. Yammer tends to be, now I'm sure you've seen different, probably a larger variety of use cases in 16 years of managing an intranet for your organization. But Yammer traditionally would be that community side of things. I want to know, I want to be a part of, I want to learn, not I have to, this is my job. Yeah. Does that feel fair?
We always said it was opt-in at our organization. It was very much, Yammer was opt-in. You didn't have the option to opt in to Outlook or to Teams or to SharePoint or, any other number of business applications, but Yammer was opt-in. It was, this is fun. This is a way to engage with people. This is a way to get interesting information, but it's not the way we designed it. And this isn't the case for everybody, but we had it where you wouldn't miss anything business critical if you weren't on Yammer, but you would miss a lot of fun and opportunity and, maybe some like interesting HR benefits information that they probably shared someone else, but it was asked a different way in Yammer. And so, yeah, different tone.
I love that. A different tone. And that definitely is starting to kind of give a hint in some ways to what the culture in that organization may be like. Yep. Because if your culture is pro-fun, pro-social, and creating areas of learning or areas of information that are opt-in, that's promoting a different level of engagement in an organization. Teams definitely is not what I would consider an opt-in tool, since that's where most of our department level collaboration happens.
Yep.
I wish Outlook were sometimes.
So do I.
Stacy, can we work on that as a PAIT policy?
Right on top of that, Rose.
She's the best. But I remember, okay, I'm calling you to chat. If you open your QA panel, I would love to know who of you remembers Office Communications Server or Live Meeting, either of those tools. If I have anyone that feels of an age that you remember those tools, I could remember an OCS or Link. My organization I worked with at the time having a serious conversation about whether or not it was appropriate to have emoticons in chat at work.
I don't know that they would be up for Yammer.
They were not. Now, in their defense, we were a DoD contractor, but why does that mean I can't give you a gold star when we're having chat? Because you just had the most brilliant idea of the year. Gold star for you. Let's go implement it, right? So if social engagement is something your organization is afraid of, I was a contractor for a company that discouraged employees of going to like technical conferences because they might get ideas from other people, right? Community was not a big deal for them. So company culture is definitely something to think about if you're considering or evaluating Yammer for your organization. But if you're like, oh, my company's pretty chill, they would be okay with fun in that more social area on the intranet, because this does become, a social part of the intranet. Think of the ways your organization could promote its company culture inside of Yammer. Do they encourage like days of giving or give you extra PTO days to be involved in a charity or like food banks and things like that? Man, having a Yammer community for that could really help that catch on and promote it and bring awareness you might not otherwise have.
Yeah.
Great platform, great tool for that.
Yeah, I think any place that is truly policy heavy and risk averse is going to struggle with any pitch we make for Yammer. So,
That's true.
But I think there are a lot of places, especially after this past year, that are appreciating the need to let people connect with each other in any way possible to really support their employees. And I think Yammer offers a lot of advantages for just that. But let's talk about the notification setup for Teams and Yammer. I personally feel just like Joy that, if I hear that Teams notification, I think my brain just kind of like work stuff. What's going on? And if I were to use an org-wide team and have more social channels in there, those notifications are still going to have the same settings. They're still going to sound the same, look the same. And so if you're trying to do those connections with other people and, have the more community fun stuff going on inside of the org-wide team, your brain is not going to be able to distinguish between the two. And you might feel really overwhelmed with notifications. We already are overwhelmed with notifications really from Teams already. And I think, in my opinion, it would probably just get a lot worse if you tried to do all the social in that same space. It would just get a little bit confusing. But I mean, there are people who love truly the one-stop shop, although we're going to show you that you can kind of have that too, even with Yammer. But
I'm going to tell on PAIT Group a little bit. I'm going to tell on myself a little bit too. So here's my confession. I have confessed to Kat about this. About mid-pandemic, we did a webinar on Maca, modern architecture, and we had a guest come on. It was wonderful. And during the course of prepping and studying for that, I was reading through some of the published Microsoft content about attention spans and focus, and about how every time you start to focus on something and you're interrupt up where you left off, your brain has to do to get back where it was. And the more those interruptions happen, the more frustrated we get. And personally, for me, I was like, oh, that's why I'm suddenly angry all the time. I'm angry all the time. So I took it upon myself to actually practice what I preach. And I went in and I really examined my team's notifications. I muted channels that I was not actively needed in. I hid teams that I'm not actively working on, so I'm not bombarded with all those notifications. And I did, after that webinar, I tweeted a public apology to Yammer. I was like, I get it now. Put the need to know in Teams because those heavy weighted notifications come there. You know you need to respond. Put the want to know as you have time in Yammer, so your brain instantly is distinguishing between priorities. And I would say the Yammer notifications are not so in your face, for better or for worse. They're just not, which is pretty awesome in this modern virtual world. But at PAIT Group, we had a fun room channel in our all company team. We still do. I flip a coin in my head sometimes if we need to maybe archive that. It would make me sad, but I don't know. But yeah, you're working and you see fun room and you're like, oh, fun room. And there you go. Done. Attention span shattered because it's a Teams notification right in front of your face. And you can't mute the fun room. That would lose all the fun. But we're working on it. Kat, you created our social squad.
Yeah, we have a social squad over in Yammer, and we're starting to get a little more active in there and pull away from the fun room a little bit in Teams. I think the notifications looking different, the fact that you can set them up differently, I think that just really helps with distinguishing between the two. And I know even on my phone, I use the Yammer app on my phone all the time, frankly, because it's just really easy since Yammer is social and I like to post photos when I'm being social. All my photos live on my phone, so I use the Yammer app, and even those notifications, the push notifications from Yammer look different. So my brain is able in that split second to say, oh, that's something I can wait on. There's not a business need. Whereas if it were a Teams notification on my phone, I would feel like I need to look at that and see what's going on. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yep, Pavlov's dog. What's new with Yammer these days?
So there is a new Yammer. It is redesigned. It is just looking better and looks more socially engaging. It is now the default. The new Yammer was kind of an option for a while to turn that on if you wanted it, but if you were already familiar and you were a Yammer user, you could stay in the old classic looking Yammer. Now they just have that on by default, and you actually have to force it to go back to classic. They've also taken the new Yammer look and put that into the daily digests and the discovery emails that you get. So they're really trying to make sure they have a cohesive look and feel across the notifications and the application itself. They have this new thing, guaranteed distribution to community members via essential announcements. So I try to play with this a little bit just to see it. If you make an announcement, you can basically force, as the community admin, you can kind of force people to get that notification, even if they've turned off most of their notification preferences. That way, if you do post something that is very important, you want to make sure people see it, you can kind of force that as the network or as that community admin. SharePoint news in Yammer. Now, I was trying to figure out what I thought about this. And by the way, this is all in the roadmap. And then I think, Stacy, you have a link for this as well, if you can share that in the chat with everybody so they can go in and look at the what's new in Yammer.
It's done.
Awesome, because there's even more. I just picked some of the things that I thought were noteworthy. But the SharePoint news in the Yammer home feed is this idea of taking a SharePoint news item and instead of emailing it, you've always had the option to email a SharePoint news item to someone. Now you can also share it in Yammer. And I was wondering what the point of that was, why you would do that. Well, the idea is that you could kind of share it into a Yammer community and then get some engagement and some discussions around that. Now I thought about that some more and I thought, well, yeah, but you can already do that inside of SharePoint News. Why would you do that over in Yammer? And as I kept thinking about it, because this is how my brain works, I thought, well, the problems with commenting in a Yammer or in a SharePoint news post is that the person who posted the news item is the only one who gets notifications when other people post comments. You can't subscribe to those. So you won't know if there's an actual conversation kind of taking place unless you're looking back at that item all the time. And that's, to me, a big flaw with the way SharePoint News is currently set up. I'm hoping they change that at some point. But so it does actually make sense to me if you really wanted to bring up have some important news article coming from your CEO and then have a discussion around that. Yammer would be a great place because everybody could kind of subscribe and tune into that and know when other people are replying to that same conversation, engage with more than just a like. They can love it, they can clap for it, they can do all kinds of fun stuff. So I think that actually makes sense for the right case. And that's now an option. They have better insights, analytics on conversations and live events. By the way, if you didn't know, and this would be a topic for another day, but you can do live events inside of Yammer. And the cool thing about that is you can kind of have conversations going before, during, and after your live event, where you can't really do that in Teams live events. They have an embed widget that has some additional customizable options. I haven't really seen that yet, but it's something that they have as new in Yammer. And you can also bring in guest users to your communities, which is something that may be a real appealing feature for some organizations. That there's a lot more, so always check the roadmap and check the Yammer blog for those kinds of details.
Marketing personalities might really enjoy the ability to connect with their clients, potential clients out there, bring those guests in. Schools, high schools, universities. Maybe your kid's going to be coming to college here and you can have a Yammer community for the kid and the parents to come get a feel for that campus culture, all that good stuff. So there's great use cases for having those guests come in. And it's less scary than bringing them into the team where we're worried about cross-contamination of internal documentation.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, show us what we got in Yammer, Kat. I think now is the magic tip.
So I would love to just I've got 2 monitors and I've said I think I need 3 or 4 to do everything I'm doing here. But let's see. Can you see the Yammer and SharePoint?
I see the landing. There's Yammer. Okay.
There we go. So yeah, we're going to use both because I want to show off some of that cross-pollination you can have going on with Yammer inside of SharePoint. But this is the new look for Yammer, and I actually did want to take a quick pause just to see, Stacy, if we had any questions from anybody, or if anyone would like to see anything in particular, we can kind of drive the demo that way too.
Not yet, but let's put that out there. If anybody has something that they specifically want to see, just shout it out right here on the chat, the Q&A on your right-hand side. That's my right-hand side, so make sure it's the right-hand side. And just let us know and we'll pivot.
Awesome. Yeah, and this would also be a good time to mention that a lot of things that I love about Yammer, I included in a blog post. So for those of you who haven't seen it, we have it on the PAIT blog. And it's got the same title as this webinar. And I also have a little video demo of the things that I share in there. So I will try not to do too much of the same stuff, but feel free to check out the blog post and the video as well. But yeah, the whole look of the new Yammer is very nice. You have all kinds of options as the community administrator if you are the person who is managing a particular community in Yammer. As you see, you've got the communities listed over on the left-hand side. and you can just kind of click through the communities that exist. You can create your own communities, but inside of the community, you can kind of style it the way that you want. Actually, I'm in here as Diego. Let me switch to the admin of a community. Megan has all the power here, so we're going to go in as Megan. So Megan has the ability to update the cover photo, so you can style this however you like. If you have a particular image you want to display here, you can also upload the icon for the little logo for your community to really customize it and make it your own. And then the main components that you get inside of this lovely social community, you have the default, which is to start a discussion and, you know, just kick things off for that particular community. You could switch to ask a question, which, as you can see, has a very visual, you know, visually distinct look to it. And this has that kind of additional capability of allowing the responses to come through just like discussion responses would, but you are able to actually mark which one is the best answer, and that goes to the top of all the responses. So that's kind of cool. Separate from that, you can do praise. And so praise is, again, just really nice. You can pick from some different icons depending on what it is you're trying to share with the community at large. And then you can say who you're praising and what they've done to give that kind of shout out. And again, in Yammer, when you do this, unlike in Teams, you are actually doing this, and if it's a public Yammer community, which most of them are, they are by default, then anyone at your organization would be able to see that. And then one of my favorite things is polls. You can do these quick little polls, and I'm going to show you where I really, really like this. It's great inside of Yammer itself, so people come into the community and they can engage with it. They can see not just the question, they can respond to the poll, they can see what the results are across the board. They can also, because it is kind of like a discussion, they can actually reply to it and like it as well. But I'm going to show you an example of this on a SharePoint homepage. You have all the different web parts that you know and love. And as you scroll down on this particular homepage, we actually pulled in a Yammer web part, and we are displaying this Yammer poll. So I'm going to go in as Megan. Diego posted this, but I'm going to go in and vote. And then I can see the results, and I could also comment or like this particular thing right on the homepage. I'm just engaging right here. Now, if I go in as Diego, I'm just going to refresh here. I can go down. And I haven't voted yet, so I've got to vote before I can see what anybody else has said. So Diego likes to take some time off. He's going to say that's his favorite benefit. And hopefully, if these are all syncing up, yep, we have, oh, and we've got somebody else who voted too. Thank you, whoever did that. So we've got the results right here on the homepage. So we had 3 people vote. Now, how am I pulling this onto the homepage? I did something very specific because I didn't want anything else in here. I wanted to make sure this was just going to show polls. So what I did over in Yammer, let's see, the poll was set up with a topic. So one of the things I love about Yammer is they have these topics you can add, and it's a way just inside of Yammer to organize your stuff, but it's also a way in SharePoint, it's one of your options. You can see here. Bear with me, I put this further down on the page. You can go in to edit your web part. This is just the Yammer Conversations web part. It's a default web part. So this would, if I were just showing an entire community, this would show me as few as, ooh, actually they've updated this. Now it can show just one. It used to be 2. So that would frustrate me if I only wanted to show one thing. But you can show lots of different conversations from a particular feed. But what I'm doing is saying, I just want to see topic and I want to see poll as the topic. What that does is if I've kind of started this within my organization and I've said, hey, anytime you create a poll in any of your communities, just make sure you add a topic for poll, and then your homepage is going to automatically get updated anytime anyone in any of those communities adds a new poll and they use that topic. So I just love that because it's very low maintenance then on your intranet homepage. You don't have to go in and always be tweaking that. And you also don't have to go and set some large setting where it's showing you tons of stuff. You can get very specific about what you want to display. And then as long as you have shared out to everybody what that should be and how they can configure their posts to show there, it just, I don't know, I think that's very cool. We use that a lot at my previous organization. We would use on our homepage, we had, coming from Yammer, a photo of the week that I would change out every week, and it was just a great way to get people engaging, seeing some fun photo from one of their colleagues, whether it was their kids or their pets or them on vacation, and they would be able to like and love those things. They would be able to respond to them. The most popular were usually when someone had a baby, got a new puppy, or just got married or engaged. Those kind of big things that people will celebrate were very popular photo of the weeks. And then we would often do polls, and they would just get a lot of visibility right there being on the homepage. People are just kind of surfing, they scroll a little bit and they say, oh, there's a quick fun poll, they participate. We would see tons of activity just by putting that stuff on the homepage. So it was just, very cool.
And it's a super way to get your finger on the pulse of what people are thinking. Yep. What are their opinions? What do they like? What do they not like? And it's one-stop shopping. You can just manage it all from right there. That's fantastic.
Exactly. So I think this, of all the trump cards to throw down and say, why Yammer? I'm like, hey, Yammer's got web parts. Yammer's cool. So yes, that is often what I bring up when we have this question come up, because Teams just doesn't have that. There is no way to bring Teams into your intranet homepage. Now you do have inside of Teams, they're making that the one-stop shop really. So you can, inside of Teams, you can now get to your intranet homepage, but still, once you're there and you're looking at it, you might want to see some of those things that you want to feature on that homepage, and Yammer might just be what you want to feature. You want to pull in a poll, or you want to pull in a good conversation. So I think that the other thing about Teams is, and I can't really display this without showing my PAIT setup with all the Teams. So I will just describe this to you, but inside of your Teams desktop application, there is an app now for Yammer communities. And so you can bring Yammer into Teams. So you don't have to go to one place and then go to another place. You can still use Teams as your central location for just about everything, and then just very quickly and easily get access to those Yammer communities inside of Teams. So that's
I think that would be a super easy video we can tweet out today of how to add the Yammer communities to the left rail inside of Teams.
Yes.
And, it feels like a downside of Teams, but it's not when you're talking about bring Yammer to the home page. Well, I can't bring Teams to the home page. Well, you really shouldn't. We're bringing the home page to Teams with our communities in Teams, because that's our social, that's everyone needs to know, wants to know stuff. The Teams is very segmented intentionally into the working groups, working areas, project groups, right? It's really not appropriate for all of that content to push it out.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a barrier that should be there to keep Teams-centric content from going out to the public, because those groups are private for a reason, right?
The one case I could really see for having an org-wide team would be to use it for notifications. Like, I'm just trying to think, when we used to send immediate emails out to all employees because they weren't really newsworthy. Like, so they weren't good for news on the intranet homepage. They weren't really social fun stuff that you'd want in Yammer, but they were things like, carpet cleaning is happening tonight. Make sure you pick stuff up off the floor. So we needed people to know that. We wanted them, but that's a work need. I mean, it's different, but I mean, it's still, if you're working in the building, you need to know this. So that I could see as a good use for an org-wide community, because you could kind of push out that type of notification. It is a business need. You know, anything where you need to alert people to things kind of quickly, but it doesn't fit into that kind of company news category really, and it doesn't fit into social fun, connection, and engagement.
Right.
Then I could see that, but
totally makes sense. Just need to know. Campus alerts, facility alerts.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great use for it. Almost like a bulletin board.
Yep.
You need to push that stuff out too.
Yeah. Any questions coming through? Any demo requests?
No demo requests just yet, but I am eager to have the demo requests. Sorry.
So I'm going to just show you what praise looks like. Let's see.
I like the praise. I like that that's in Yammer. It's in Teams as well, as you mentioned before. And yes, Megan always deserves all the praise. She is just the workhorse of Contoso.
She is community extraordinaire, right?
I mean, we could all aspire to be like Megan.
And I love how right now it is not letting me. I'm like, what piece am I missing? It is not letting me click on.
So I went through this a minute ago when I did one. If you click where it says, who do you want to praise? It makes you.
Oh, there, because I kept thinking like I'm writing her name, but yes, thank you.
Yep. Nope,
I did this yesterday too. It's the live demo thing. I'm like, what? Where?
Yes. The demo gods can be petty.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was floundering with that before. I was like, I don't know what you want. What do
So
you
it's
want?
not, well, and I've given a lot of praise inside of Teams, so it definitely works differently. But yeah, you can do all kinds of fun stuff like this. And again, since it is a discussion, really just a different format, people would be able to come in and comment and share their own praise. So that's really nice.
So if I'm a member of multiple communities and I just need to see a rundown of latest and greatest of what's happening in my Yammer world.
So there is and I am still struggling sometimes with the new Yammer experience. When you hit Yammer, it defaults to your main feed when you actually just click on that up here. So you'll get to your home feed right there. And then this is just going to curate all your content from across all the different communities that you are involved in. And I believe, because one of the things I actually really like about Yammer is you don't have to join a community to be able to see what's going on in there. So if you were to pick a community, you can see here it's got the joined thing. So you know that Diego has joined this particular community. But even if he leaves that community, he would be able to still get in and take a look at it.
Got you.
It responds to me. So I like that, because with Teams, I have done public teams. I've never done an org-wide team, but I've done public teams before. And with those, I mean, they're great for their own purpose, but you have to join it. Like, you can't just go peek and see it. You have to actually join the team that's a public team, and then you're a member of it, and then you're going to be kind of signed in as a member. You could leave it, obviously, but all right. So my demo tenant's a little slow to respond to me today, but that's essentially the idea, is that you can see communities and get into them no matter if you are officially a member of that community or not. If you are a community member, you can, go in and set up your notification settings for that. And to do that, you can come up to the settings gear up here in the upper right. And if you have the desktop application, you can do desktop notifications, but also just going into settings, you can see all different kinds of settings, and you've got different kinds of notifications that you can do. So it works differently than Teams, like we were saying before. Read through this list, see what makes sense for you. And then what you're seeing down here is actually your subscription to email from these different communities. So by subscribing to CEO Connection, I am saying I want to get emails from this particular community. And so you can save that here. The other way to do that, I will show you in a minute, is to come over into the community itself, any community that you go into. On this menu here, you see the 3 dots, you can come in and subscribe and unsubscribe.
Perfect.
So I was subscribed, so I could just unsubscribe. So you have different ways to get in and mess with those notification settings as well.
And remember, if you're trying to declutter your inbox, get in that habit of going to your feed rather than having it email you will definitely help. I work with that. I had some folks that had told Teams they wanted to get an email anytime something happened.
Oof. Yeah.
Oof.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot. It was messy. All right.
I was looking to see if we had any with, because this is again a demo tenant. Here we go. We got some responses in this one. One of the things that you can't do inside of Teams is you can't move a conversation to another team. Here, though, in Yammer, you can move a conversation to another community. So that's pretty cool.
That really makes more sense to be over here.
And I've said that a million times in Teams. I'm like, I want to move this to another channel or another team, and I can't do it. It's pretty cool that you can do that here, especially if you're trying to merge things. Maybe you broke out and you had too many communities and you're saying, you know, this one wasn't used as heavily, let's merge this one with another one. You can move those important conversations that you don't want to lose and then delete.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
My biggest downfall in Teams is I start a private chat with 3 or 4 people. And I'm like, why didn't I do this in the team?
Right, right.
Ugh, so guilty of that.
The other thing you can do, and I think I have to be the network, or I keep saying network. I want to say network admin all the time, but I mean community admin. So I'll go over to superpowered Megan. Oh, and feel free to interrupt me, by the way, if we get any questions coming.
Oh, I definitely will. I'm not shy.
So she is, yeah, here we see a lot more options as the administrator. So some of the other things I like, you can close conversations. So if there's been a lot, maybe you have a heated debate going on and you're like, okay, we need to shut this down. You can close the conversation. And when you do that, you it also gives this nice gentle reminder. It's very polite, but it says you might want to post something before you close it saying why you're closing it so that the last message people see is an indication of why this conversation is now closed, which is a very helpful reminder. So you can cancel, go post that, and then come back and close it. The other thing that I do like in here, so I'm at the top, right? Scrolling down, 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 coming here, and I'm like, this one is important. Pin it. You know where pin stuff goes in Teams? Go find out. It is so ridiculous where pinned things go in Teams when you pin a conversation in Teams. It is ridiculous. This I just pinned and it says, hey, this is now at the top where you think it would be. At the very top now, you see the pinned conversation. You can see it right here. It's very clear. And you can only pin one conversation, but okay. So you got that up there. And so if you have a really important announcement for your community, you can pin that, or maybe a poll that you want to get high visibility on for the next, few weeks or something like that. You can pin it. And then when you're done, then you can just say unpin. Clean. So just some nice, simple things that either they have in Teams and they don't work the way they should, in my opinion, or they, these things just don't really exist in Teams at all.
Yeah, I kind of get the Teams one because if you pin it to the top, you're having to go back.
But pin it somewhere where you can find it.
Somewhere visible. And if you've never played with that, if you pin something in Teams, it goes under the details pane that's cleverly disguised with the information symbol. It goes in there. Like,
yeah, it doesn't go just in there. It goes all the way to the bottom. So if you have like a lot of members in the team, you wouldn't see it even if you went to the info page. Like you have to scroll all the way down. Yes, Microsoft, if you're listening, that is not very intuitive.
Help us.
One other thing I can show is that this is very inclusive. You now can do skin tones for reactions, just so, if you're, not yellow, like all of the emojis here.
If you're not a Simpson.
Yes, if you're not a Simpson, you can come in and choose the right skin tone for yourself. And then that way, when you do that, you'll be able to see when you go in to do your reactions, not for everything, but for your like and for your thank, you will actually see your skin tone reflected, whatever you chose. So it's just, again, and you can also see that the little emojis here are different than the ones that you have in Teams. So you can celebrate things, you can thank people. So just some cool differences.
I find it interesting that if you're laughing, partying, or crying, you're still a Simpson.
You're still a Simpson, yep.
That's
they
funny.
they haven't worked that one out yet.
Oh, well, that's okay. I like the Simpsons.
No, I want rainbows and confetti.
Oh, screen reactions like we have on our iPhone text. That would be magical.
I want one for emphasis, like on the iPhone, the exclamation points. That's one thing I'm waiting for. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Kat, this is great. Thank you so much for taking us on this walk through the new Yammer so we can kind of see where things are, the polls, the praise, kind of the modernization of Yammer really is fantastic. I hate that 2020, it was supposed to be the year of Yammer, but then
Teams.
It's not Teams' fault. It's not Yammer's fault. There was some kind of pesky little pandemic that hit.
Yeah.
Turned the world
that we're still dealing with. Yep.
Still dealing with it. But Yammer's time is coming. I think it's on the horizon because attention and focus is such a big deal, and being able to sort what goes where is such a big deal. But again, thank you for that. I think we'll throw up the last slide.
Oh, yes.
On the screen. It has mine and Kat's contact information, both for LinkedIn, Twitter, and did I do it? Yes, our email addresses. The QR code will take you to our LinkedIn profiles. Please connect, and you can reach out to us on social or email if there are certain things here you're just like, but how could this work for me? We can help you figure that out. You are not going down this M365 road alone. Kat, thank you. This has been so fun. She will be back, folks. This is
my first webinar ever, so thank you all. I mean, I've attended plenty, but this is the first time I've ever been in one. So thank you to everyone who participated today, and thank you so much, Joy and Stacy.
Oh, our pleasure.
Oh, yes.
Love having you on the team. Okay, if y'all haven't had lunch yet, now's your time. Make a break for it.
I'm starving.
Girl, go. Bye, everyone.
Bye.